G'day, this is a video on how I made this cool little toolbox for my welding trolley. It starts right now. Hey look, the end result might have been a bit of an overkill, but hey, look, I learned a lot, and just at the end of the day, it cost me less than 10 bucks to make. That's mainly due to the fact that I used all reclaimed pallets, and not only that, I was able to use a lot of the short offcuts that were no good for other projects, and even some longer pieces that had, a little bit of slight twist or warp in them that were no good, but by the time you cut them down into smaller pieces, you couldn't notice that twist or warp. Yeah, so I guess it really does meet the criteria of reclaimed. Now, the glue up took me several days, mainly just due to the fact that it didn't have enough clamps. So once all the glue up was completed, I then ran each section through the table saw just to trim it down to the final size. But the main reason that's necessary is just because, using pallets, they're all different width boards, so you just need each of these panels to be the exact same size so it all fits together nicely. Now, I didn't use any nails or screws to hold it together during assembly, it was just the glue, so I found that the masking tape just helped hold it all together, just while it was being clamped together as well. And again, with the clamping, I didn't have enough clamps to complete the whole project in one go, so it was mainly just the bottom section that got glued together, and the top got glued and clamped on separately. Now, when I first set out to make this toolbox, I had no intention of sanding it down, let alone running all the pieces through the thicknesser, but I'm glad I took the extra time to do those steps because the finish on it was come up really nice, and it still retained a lot of that character. Now, on the corners I used the router just to recess in a piece of light gauge steel angle iron. Now, these steel strips are usually used as reinforcing type thing, but in this project I just glued them on, and it was only just to make it look a bit more industrial. And they're only about $2.40 per strip, and I only used 2 of them. And now for the box and the lid to match perfectly, the plan was to build a complete solid box and then run it through the table saw to cut the lid off. And this is my first time trying this technique, and I was pretty nervous at this stage because a lot of work had gone in to get it this stage and didn't want to ruin it. But man, it came out great, and I'm really happy with the result. Now for the hinge mechanism, I just use a piece of flat bar, 25mm, I think it was like 2 or 3mm thick. And lucky I've had a short piece laying around left over from another job, and yeah, didn't need too much anyway. The trick was just to get all 4 pieces exactly the same length and the holes drilled at the same centres as each other. Now, in theory, I figured that so long as each of the bars on each side were parallel and each side of the box was exactly the same, it should function properly and should open. So yeah, I just like scribed a line from the cut line, 30mm each side, and then I kept my top mounting holes about 250mm apart, and just made sure I kept the bottom mounting holes 250mm apart as well, but on that bottom scribe line. And to attach them, I just use 6mm coach bolts, and also put a washer between the bar and the wooden box, just so the motion of the bar moving wouldn't rub against the box and wear off the paint. And then tighten the bolts up just so there's still a little bit of play, just so it wouldn't be too tight. Woohoo! Gotta be happy with that. Then it was time to strip it apart and give everything a paint and stain. Now for the timber I used a couple of coats of golden oak stain, and followed by a couple of coats of clear gloss, and with the sanding in between coats just to really give it a good shine. And for all the metal strips on the corners and the hinge mechanism, I just painted a dark grey and then a clear gloss over the top of those. To complete that industrial style look, I bent up an old spanner to attach as a hook. And then welded some 6mm bolts onto another spanner to use as a handle. and then welded a couple of washers to the shafts of the bolts, just to stop them sliding in too far so the handle will stick out far enough to grab hold of. So if you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you've loved it, feel free to share it and comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe and visit my channel to see more. So there we go. Looks great, functions well, and it cost me less than 10 bucks to build. And it's no mistake that it ended up at the same height as my workbench, so works really well. And if I was to build it again, the only things I'd do different is to perhaps put some guides on the inside just to locate the lid when it's down, and perhaps change the angle of the hinge mechanism so it's not quite as steep. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.